Martin Popoff here. Welcome back to the Contrarians and another episode of Reliving Old Reviews is a useless tool of confusion. This is the show or the sub-show or the part of our channel where we look at old reviews that were written at the time for classic albums and see if the journalist got it right, what they're comparing it to, see if we can find some amusing things about these reviews and what it was like experiencing these albums that we now consider are absolute classics, but at the time, and see what they were saying about these bands when they were young and fresh and all that kind of thing. So today we're going to talk about Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. And I've got a Rolling Stone review written by Gordon Fletcher, who did a lot of these reviews and does a pretty good job. I haven't read this review for years and years and years, maybe if ever, but I probably have because I probably quoted it in my Sabbath book, maybe somewhere. Remember, I've got Sabbath books. I've got a bunch of Sabbath books, but the main ones are the Sabotage, Story of the Early Years, Born Again, Story of the Later Years. You can get all that at martinpopoff.com. They're both in print. So maybe I quoted this in there or not, but I don't know. But I'm going in here pretty cold. So the idea here is we're just going to take a look at this review and comment on it. So this is Rolling Stone, February 14th, 1974. This review even has a title above the review. It says, The Sabbath Search for Peace. So let's see what Gordon has to say. He starts off and says, though they are best known as the planet's premier heavy metal band, Black Sabbath's major contribution has been to successfully capture the gist of specifically 70s culture through their music. So right off the bat, early 1974, he's just throwing around the term heavy metal. So the term heavy metal is pretty normal, right? So that's pretty cool. Calling them the premier heavy metal band. So that's pretty cool. They relate to this impersonal mechanical decade, much as Delta bluesmen and the Chicago spin-offs related to their eras by synthesizing collective feelings and giving their contemporaries hope by revealing disaffection that unites all of them. There's a typo there. It says units, but I think he means unites. Pretty interesting. But I love this. So basically, he's saying that they're capturing the weirdness of the early 70s. He's almost saying they're capturing the early 70s the way the punks are going to capture it in the late 70s, sort of thing. So he's saying they've really got, they're attuned to what's going on with the youth of today, right? Then he goes, in that remote but real sense, Black Sabbath might well be considered true 70s bluesmen. Pretty cool. Many will no doubt laugh, but I can think of no other group that has so consistently spoken in the musical language of its times. The power chord, that brief but brutal third generation staple, has always been Sabbath's major medium, the oral twin of the metallic age surrounding us, calling it a metallic age. That's kind of cool. And as such, technical advances as the Mellotron and Moog have risen to the musical fore, they've been incorporated into Sabbath's sonic setting, the computerized musical counterparts of a cold programmed world. Wow. So really, bringing up computers already in February 1974, it's kind of weird. And, overstating the amount of Moog and Mellotron that really is going to be part of this album. But, you got to bring it up. He's probably reading the credits and seeing this, right? But it's Sabbath's lyrics that have been the instant conveyor of their message, accompanying a dedicated cadre through a multiplicity of emotions and worldly experiences. Ozzy Osbourne possesses an eternal teenager's tones, voicing the vicarious existence of youth, lost in the wheels of confusion, in quote marks. So, he's implying I think this person Gordon thinks that Ozzy is writing the lyrics, spells Ozzy wrong too, spells it Ossie. But it's kind of cool saying the lyrics are capturing the tone of the times as well. On songs like Iron Man, Wicked World, and Children of the Grave, he's blended with the band in a well-nigh perfect vocal/instrumental portrayal of the violently schizophrenic emotions of the ostracized elite, riddled with ridicule for their latter-day Cassandrian visions. Pretty deep stuff. Not exactly sure what he means there. But yeah, he's referring obviously to the past, not songs on this album. Through drugs, Sweet Leaf and Snowblind, and religion after forever, Sabbath have stayed with the quest for an answer, culminating their search in such heavy metal odes That's interesting. So heavy metal here, and I noticed before, but it was a broken line, so I didn't notice it as much. But he puts a dash in heavy metal, so that's going to go away in time. But he thinks there's a dash in heavy metal. In such heavy metal odes as Into the Void and the Spectacular Supernaut, the latter revealing in its final verse their beliefs that sanity is assured only through dogged belief in one's sense to the exclusion of all else. So that's pretty cool. And Sabbath searching for answers through drugs or religion. Which brings us to Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, on which the band both fully accepts this dictum and grows comfortable with it. Through enough solid heavy metal to satisfy even the staunchest metallurgist, Sabracadabra Looking for Today and the title tune lie firmly within the band's accustomed format, a logical extension of The Who's classic mid-60s formula. So now we get our first early days comparison. It is 1974. There's not a lot you can compare Sabbath to. So he goes to The Who, right? The Who is loud and wild and crazy and heavy, but they obviously don't have the Diabolus in Musica tritone kind of thing Sabbath does, but fair enough. Gordon has to compare them to The Who. They search for peace in the eye of the hurricane of life. Nice line. In fact, this record transcends third-generation rock in that it possesses a degree of internal intricacy that belies popular conceptions of heavy metal. The use of tempo changes and electronic keyboards to cast liquid emotions makes Sabbath Bloody Sabbath an extraordinarily gripping affair. I love that. That's pretty cool. Electronic keyboard, to cast liquid emotions, because this album is kind of liquid, right? It's a little bit melty, a little bit melted compared to Volume 4 and Master of Reality, Paranoid, etc. Let's see. Then in quote marks, he says, let's see. Why does he have this in quote marks? He says, the blues ought to make you want to cry 1 minute and make you want to get up and dance the next. Maybe Sabbath said this somewhere. That's what Black Sabbath have always done for this believer. And in doing it again, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is nothing less than a complete success. Call it the blues of the decade or heavy metal, whatever the name for their music, Black Sabbath are a true 70s band. So there you go. Kind of a cool review. I think he gets it right. It's a positive review saying that they are, in with the times. I always remember this as the times of Man, Myth, and Magic magazine. You think of the cover of Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, totally scary, right? Searching for answers again, searching in the occult. But as he says, searching in drugs, searching in religion after forever. Kind of a cool review. So there you go. There's another episode of Reliving Old Reviews is a useless tool of confusion. Let us know in the comments below whether you think Gordon has got it right on Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.